Hey guys, Stealth here and welcome to Iron Conflict. In Iron Conflict you have light tanks, and light tanks are an asset that I see often being misused in the game, and I think that's sad. So, quick guide on how to use your light tanks. In the current version of the map, or the current version of the game rather, you only really have one map, and that is this one, Rosefield. Now, what you can normally see happening is that over here, towards the middle, this is where you see a couple of light tanks operating. That really doesn't work too well for the light tanks because they're easy to get killed off. So ideally, a light tank is either a scout or a flanker, and I use them as flankers. So use the route over here or use the route down here. Or if you're feeling adventurous, you can go through here and take up position over here at the cross. That is also a pretty decent field. Not necessarily to fire from, but to spot from. Now, let's have a look at this replay, and I can show you how I personally use light tanks. There is no particular replay function, so that's why you can see VLC popping up on my screen. I know it's not ideal, but it's easier to give a bit of commentary with that. Now, I always go over the list to see what my potential downfalls could be. In this case, I can see that there is an MA40, that's an artillery unit. There is an MA46, that's a heavy tank. That one I need to avoid. Aircraft, I can't do anything against, at least not with my lineup of artillery, heavy tank, and MA41 Walker Bulldog, so I'm gonna have to just ignore the aircraft. My targets ideally are the ZLP, the ZGP, that's an anti-air gun, the MA1, anti-air gun. You got two more ZGPs over there. You got the MA40 artillery. Avoid the MA46 unless you really want to flank him. Another ZLP. And over here is ZGP and this one, the MA40. So there are plenty of targets around. You just have to be a little patient if you want to get to them. That's where most people go wrong. They're not patient enough with a light tank. They rush in. So what I try and do first is send my light tank all the way to the northern part of the map. Because once it's going over there, I can just pay casual attention to the other units that I have, which is the MA40 artillery and the MA46. Basically the M46, but since Iron Conflict apparently doesn't have the rights to call that unit as it is, that is the name that we're going with. The MA46, as well as of course the MA41. Now, as my tank is moving over there, let's have a look at what's happening down the middle. I know that there is either a scout plane or a fighter flying over the middle. I think you'll find that it is a fighter because people send those things ahead way too soon. It's a great way to get your fighter killed as well. But then again, this is more of a light tank guide. There we go. Oh, sorry, it's not a fighter. It is a surveillance aircraft. We can also see another MA41 over there, and this is not ideal. This guy over here, he's right in the middle of the map, right there. Not a great spot. The only thing he can do is just drive up here, sit over here for a while, peek over the ridge, and at that point, he is very likely to encounter a heavy tank, which is not something that a light tank can deal with head-on. More often than not, you'll find that your shells from a light tank just bounce off of a heavy, so just don't bother. And you can see the amount of fire that he's taking. Now here's another mistake. Let me see if I can get that frame a little sharper. He's holding position. A light tank should be moving almost at all times. Maneuverability and mobility is life for these things. Don't stop them. And you can see the amount of artillery shells that just came flying at it. Unfortunately, my MA46 misses a few times, lands a hit, lands another hit, and takes out the MA41 of the guy, ironically called Spy Guy. Unfortunately, that's not really how you use that. Now, I'm gauging the distance from my artillery to see what the range is going to be and how far I have to move up. And in the meanwhile, the light tank continues on its merry path. What I'm doing right now, splitting off my light tank, can be considered a little risky. Because by doing that, I have to focus on, various different fronts at the same time. I'm not actively using the M46, More keeping it as a frontline slash defender. So when something blunders into range, that's fine. And in the meanwhile, I can use my artillery units to start doing some damage against units on their team, which happen to be stationary. Now at this point, quite a few of the enemy units which I'm looking for have already been taken out, unfortunately. I really want to do some more damage to some of those smaller units, but hey-ho. Here we are. Another threat to light tanks, although it isn't a light tank threat in the sense that it will kill you, but it can get you killed, is a spy aircraft. Fighters, bombers, they're no fun. But a spy aircraft can notify the enemy that you're arriving. And that is all the more dangerous. So in the meanwhile, just managing to get this tank out of the way. Turning around because there is another threat coming in. Although I'm not sure why they're pushing with the ZGP. It's an anti-air gun. It has no business being here. Neither does the other one. But okay. In the meanwhile, I wasn't managing my artillery and it gets killed. So, pull the tank all the way back so I can start paying attention to my light tank. Now, just for a second here, note how many units are dead. Especially the ones that I'm interested in is the aircraft here, the fighter, the enemy scout tank, an enemy heavy tank, another enemy heavy tank, another enemy scout tank. So, a lot of the, let's say, natural predators of light tanks are already dead. And that's perfect for me. Because now I can actually go on the offensive. So let's bring the light tank out of hiding. And you can do that all the way on the other side of the map by crossing the river. You don't need any particular gear for that, you just cross. Keep a close eye on when your light tank gets detected. In case you don't know how to do that, it's the little icon on the left hand side of the unit that says, hey, you've been detected, right there. That's it, that little eye icon. You have been detected, and that is by the fighter that's up there, the L5. Immediately, an anti-air gun opens up. They have fantastic range, but their shots are utterly ineffective against my MA-41. Or let's call it as it is, the Walker Bulldog. In the meanwhile, however, he is drawing a direct path to where exactly I can find that unit. So, as I'm heading there, I also happen to find an artillery unit, and as you can see, I almost made the mistake of being stationary there. Something else that works. What I was doing here was zigzagging. I was doing a course like that. Because if you go in a course like that, a straight line, and there is an artillery unit, there's one over here, there's one over here. What they can easily do is predict where you're going and just wait for you to get there. When that happens, you'll find that your unit just gets splashed. And in case of a light tank, which barely has any armor, well, good luck with that. So, that's one unit down. Time to figure out what else I can shoot. There's an MA-40 there, and in the meanwhile, I'm heading away from the C-59. I don't want to have an encounter with a tank. But it's not just one tank, there's another one. There's an MA-46. And unfortunately, I realized it too late. Right there. That's the MA-46 that's hunting me down. My advantages here are speed and maneuverability. So I'm immediately starting to increase the range to the MA-46, making sure that I don't get close to that unit. And as I'm maneuvering, you can see that the ZLP over here just fired in a straight line. Just fired like that. So what I tried to do was not be where he expected me to be. Keep maneuvering. Stay mobile. Don't get shot at. Unfortunately, I'm now getting pincered between the artillery unit and the MA-46, and I try to pop smoke, but it doesn't work out. Now, in this next clip, the battle is already a couple minutes old. There are already a few units which have been taken out, and my light tank is in position all the way down here in the south, ready to start flanking. A mistake that I see people make, unfortunately, is that they charge with a light tank in positions where it's not opportune, where you're just going to get your tank killed. Light tanks are serious opportunists. They really only pick a fight that they can win, and they run away from everything that they can't. So when you find something that you cannot win against, move away. Don't try to overwhelm your enemy just by thinking that you can outplay them. Because if your light tank is the only thing on that flank, you're just going to lose the light tank. And they can be so valuable later on as they're hunting down targets. Now what happens here is that, and it's not that easy to tell, over here I find a scout group, infantry, and over here I find an MA41 and an MA46. So quite a few different targets. I might be able to take up the scout group, but the guys over here, not so much. I cannot take it. Well, I might be able to take out the MA41, but the MA46, not so much. So in this case, it's pretty simple. Get the hell out of there. I immediately start falling back. Fortunately, a couple of the guys miss, and my tank manages to take out the scout group. So away we go. Just run away. It's that simple. There is an ally coming my way. That's a C-59. When the C-59 is there, I might be able to assist him. I might be able to spot for him so he can engage from farther away. But what I see people do, and I just cannot fathom why, they charge in. They think that a light tank can easily take that fight. Now, in case you're wondering, no, these are not bots. These are all players that I'm facing. And it's not like it's a bot that goes, okay, herpaderp, we're just going to drive the tank in. No, they're actually thinking about it. Or at least, it's rather what I hope they're thinking. Some people, however, leave their toys in the same place, as you can see here. Just waiting for the light tank to come back. And in the meanwhile, splash damage on another parked C-59. Now, what I've done right now is pull the light tank from where it was, which was right about here on the map. I've pulled it all the way back here, so that I can make use of it later on, when the battle is a little older. And we're a bit deeper into the fight, and when more dangerous units have been killed off. Don't necessarily throw it away. It's really not worth it, because as you can potentially see on the map down here, there are quite a few valuable targets out there. Artillery units have been spotted. And they've been spotted by a plane. So I know that there is not necessarily a killer in the area. My light tank could be that killer. So, time to move up the MA46. Unfortunately, heavy tanks. Fairly blind and not terribly maneuverable. So, he needs support. And as I'm cresting the ridge, it's pretty dangerous, but I might be able to do some damage here. And I'm immediately starting to take the fight to an enemy MA46. And I'm also bringing the light tank up a bit more. I'm not actively managing that much. I'm just telling it to go to where I think it will be needed. Now, at this point, 3 players are already out of the fight. MA41, MA1, BA29. Or rather, M41, M46, and then FAH2. FA2H. So, quite a few of the guys have already lost their toys. But, there's still plenty to kill. Fortunately, MA46, it's been detected. It's getting shot at. Well, intermittently that is. And while it has a good rate of fire, I would rather leave stuff like this to a light tank. Just so that the light tank can, well, it can get support from the MA46, but it's far better at hunting stuff down. So in this case, I'm going to keep the heavy tank pushing, because I know that there aren't that many natural enemies. In the meanwhile, the artillery is coming up, although I don't feel like I really need it. And my light tank is also coming up, and it is coming up just slightly to the right of the heavy tank. It's now providing spotting for my heavy, so that the heavy tank can do a bit more damage. It can find targets easier, and I'm also trying to secure the win. You can never really rely on your teammates in the sense that you can think, there are plenty of enemy units dead, we have them. No, if you can, try and cap, because it's just a safer way to win. So, my heavy tank goes there, and it is my light tank that goes on the offensive. The light tank, the hunter, the one that could have been dead, now comes into its own. And now I can hunt down some units here, because there's a ZLP-54, there is another ZLP-70, we have an anti-air gun over there, which for some reason or another I just ricocheted of. And there you go, the Shayaro is dead. Next is the ZLP. Gotta make sure it doesn't fire at you. MA41 takes another. And potentially there's something else up there. The heavy tank would take forever to get there, so instead, time for the light tank to have a go. And there is also an aircraft which is heading that way. So the aircraft can do some spotting. If it turns out to be something that the L6 can't quite tackle, then I can support with the unit. I still know, however, that the M46 and the MA41 are somewhere in the south. Pretty much where I left them. So just by scouting and keeping the unit alive after, I more or less still have a read on where the guys are. So again, light tank charges in, gets the kill, there we go. And at this point, not that much to do. Another valuable use right now for the light tank is to send it into the cap, because 1, it can get there quickly, and 2, the units that are in that cap aren't that good at spotting. But instead, I think that I might be able to find the MA1 from the enemy somewhere in the 3-4 line. And then I realize, oh, no, hold on, they're down south. So I tried to type that in chat. I'm not sure if everybody, or if anybody even reads that, but I thought, you know what, might as well. Now, in this game, this match, I ended up keeping all my units at full health, of all things. Fairly unexpected, but full health they were. Just by playing carefully with them. And it worked. It really worked. Don't throw your light tank away. Be picky. Pick the fights that work for you, not the fights that work for the enemy. And these are the results. Not terribly high amounts of damage, but in combination, I was able to get quite a few spots. The spots came from the light tank, 5 spots over here. The kill count, 5 for the light tank, 4 for the heavy tank, 3 for the artillery, which I think also netted me another MVP medal. Now, direct damage, not that much of a difference between the light tank and the heavy tank. This is how effective a light tank can be. Again, had I pushed over in the south, I probably wouldn't have had the light tank. And I probably wouldn't have been able to get those 4 other kills, because one of the kills that it got was the one that it got killed, or that it got when it engaged the infantry. Don't throw your unit away. It's just such a waste. Alright, so how do you equip your light tank? A couple of different builds that you can go with. One of the builds that I really enjoy is the Hunter build, or a fast maneuver unit. It has a couple of accessories that make it even better. It has the rammer to increase or reduce reload time, not increase reload time, but reduce reload time, increase rate of fire. And a vertical stabilizer to increase tank movement and turret rotation when rotating by 20%. So that means that you just get better turret rotation. And I'm not sure if it also works on the vehicle itself, but I don't believe so. It's just for your turret. You can also go for a different build, in which case you're going to be a more stationary scout. And that build really relies upon the camouflage net and the commander telescope. If you do go for that build, you have a pretty good spotter, which can pretty easily level with, for example, a scout infantry group. It will get outspotted by an aircraft. It simply won't have the stealth that it needs, and it simply won't have the spotting. Because even if I equip the spotting module, so let's say the rammer becomes the commander telescope, I'm going to have a ground visual range of 295. Fine. What can I get on... I'm not even sure if I still have it. Scout aircraft. Here, the PA-2. 339. It's just better. A scout aircraft is always going to find more than your little scout tank. But then again, this thing can't hunt. And this thing can. Alternative build that you can use is something that relies a bit more on consumables. You could go with a repair kit, but if you're using either the repair kit or the toolkit, that means that something's gone wrong because you've been taking damage. Now, you're quite likely to take damage during the battle early on if you throw the tank away, but that's generally not how I play. You can also go with more mobility, which is the speed governor. The governor level 2. Tank speed increase. Currently it's 51. And with the governor on, it's still 51. I'm not sure if this thing is actually updating. Oh, sorry. it doesn't increase the speed, it increases the acceleration. Which means that you could be more of a hunter that has a couple of quick stops and shoots a few times and then runs off again. So, a few different builds for your light tanks. I'm not sure if this is going to stick very well for the entirety of the light tank tree. I have gotten to the M41A3. I'm really looking forward to getting the Sheridan, the M551, or eventually the M8. I'm really looking forward to seeing how well these things can do. Anyway, that's it for this little light tank guide. Let me know what your thoughts are on it down below in the comment section. If you found it useful, then please give it a like. And if you'd like to see more comments or more commentary slash replay slash guides, let me know down below in the comment section on what you would like to see next. Hope you're having fun with Iron Conflict, and I'll see you guys soon for another video.